Welcome to the Show Up Show, where we bring you everything you need to emerge as a powerful and healthy leader in your life, business, and relationships. Because how you show up in one area of life is how you show up in all of them. I'm your host, Debbie Pace, author of The Journal to Freedom, a foundational guide to help you examine your beliefs and how they shape your patterns and behaviors in life, so you can transform what's not working and can show up like a boss in every area of your life. Elasa Tiernan found her life purpose as a soul guide after 2 near-death experiences. So what does that mean? How does she stay grounded while helping others wake up? And what's the work she does in the multidimensional space? Tune in now to find out. One of the things that I haven't known you very long, so we know actually each other in real life, which is a cool thing in this technology age. So you're one of my colleagues in real life, and I haven't known you very long. But what I find really interesting about you, Elasa, is that some of us, like me, back into this spiritual space and just kind of stumble on it because we get gobsmacked or something. But you seem to have really been in it for a long time, and you seem like you were surrounded by it. Can you tell us a little bit, first of all, what it is that a soul guide does, and then how you got into this space?
So a soul guide is someone who's seeking soul guidance. So not everybody wakes on the planet knowing they're even a soul. And that's kind of when you get backed into that spiritual corner, is because you realize, wait a minute, none of what I thought was real is actually what I am eternally. And so it becomes very small in the scale of your eternal nature, eternal makeup, your whole existence. So I'm here to help guide you through the process of waking up to what you really are. And I found that through near-death experiences. 2 of them, the first one, when I was 9 years old, I was definitely seeking, prior to 9, very wise, but seeking why I was here. And I would cry endlessly to my mother, I don't really understand this place. And then I had the near-death experience, and I came to knowing what I was here to do, which is pretty much what I've been doing from that point forward. And it seems weird to most adults to think that a child would know that, but it was definitely known. And I remember reading my first, book when I was like pretty much recovering from a head injury, Carolyn Mace, and Anatomy of the Spirit. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. I'm supposed to be sharing this type of experience of the spirit with people. And that just pretty much, led me on my own wild goose chase of my own soul, my own patterns through teenage and early 20s. But in my college, I yet again hit that wall of, I'm studying this Western medicine, but I know that that's not it. And so I actually found a Reiki school down the street while I was studying my master program, and it pretty much saved me from quitting. And I just realized I could weave it all together and still be able to assist people with, meditation, which was the main tool that I saw that everybody really needed on the planet.
That's a great story. And what I find interesting too is that sometimes for people like me who are very new to the spiritual space, to the multidimensional space, and there's probably even some people listening to this who are going, what the heck is that? But some people who are in this space, it's hard for very cerebral people who, like I tend to be, and I tend to surround myself with those type of people, to really understand even the language sometimes, because you're talking about the difference between physical space and energetic space. And I think that is a really cool thing about you, is because you articulate it so well. It's like you just said, you were going for your, college program and stuff. And that's not something that I tend to have conversations with people in the spiritual space. So can you tell us a little bit about like how you balance? Because meditation even takes us out of our physical body. So, and I personally love it because who doesn't love being out of the physical body and basically like energetically flying? You can liken it to dreaming if you don't meditate yet, but it's such a wonderful place. And I sometimes think, man, if I really were to let go of this 3-dimensional earth plane, boy, I would just fly. And I think I even have concerns that maybe I won't want to fully come back. How do you balance that in your own life?
Definitely weaving your meditation into, real life, meaning, I take walks, and I feel like that's a strong meditation, is, doing walking meditation when I'm in the garden. Anytime I'm in that no space or spacious place of myself that I can be in the physical helps me. I think also just becoming a parent, having a 9-year-old or 10-year-old now, she definitely grounded me out of like the space coaster world to really being present and being here, because I had to be and hold that ground for her. So yeah, I think becoming a parent kind of pushes those of us who have really floated outside of the 3D. And, that's pretty much what I was. I was traveling and helping many centers around the world just with ley line work and clearing of their space. And on one of my journeys met my partner. So that pretty much, having our daughter grounded us into, okay, let's get really physical here, and to share with her, because how do you share these skills and techniques with children? A lot of children are coming in wise like myself, but a lot of children come in with many timeline disturbances of other times they've been incarnated, and they struggle with in the same way that I did, or anybody, because we truly are, until you wake up, you truly are just repeating pattern after pattern, lifetime after lifetime, until you actually realize what the message is and embody deeper. So I think that's another aspect. As being a parent, I realized that what I needed to do next was embody fully. And that would be my greatest gift to the world, would not to be to float off, but to really get back down in my body and share, and kind of the question how you asked it, in very tangible ways. And meditation, like you said, it's so yummy.
Yes, it is.
But what I really, a deep download that came even last night, was about taking action now. So it's meditating, and then really embodying what you just meditated into, that high spacious area of yourself, which is all of existence, and then grounding it down, and then maybe taking a power walk and like walking in to this world, like fully who you are, have always been eternally, and make new steps, make new actions wholeheartedly without any duality wobble, because you truly do know who you are. And when you know who you are and you step down into this place, many others will notice you, and not for fame or fortune, but they will notice that in themselves and want to also embody. So I hope to be an inspiration just through my presence,
Well, I would say you are, for sure. So I'm extremely grateful for your presence in my life, for sure. So you mentioned something that I've heard before, and I haven't really gone to research it much, but you talked about walking meditation. What is that? Can you describe that?
So just taking a walk, but being very spacious. There's mindful meditation where you just sit with your eyes open and just allow the scenery, allow the day or the experience around you to happen, but not engage in it or entangle with it, just being very spacious and open. And the same thing goes for your walking meditation. You're mindful, you're alert, but you're also very aware of your surroundings, not that it's separate, but that it's you. And so you can just, again, embody larger territory of yourself and practice being that big self when you do walking meditation. Not to mention that when I'm in motion, if I'm flying in an airplane, if I'm rebounding or walking or bike riding, spirit communicates, my consciousness communicates very loud and very easy. So it's addicting for me to get fast in the body and want to listen. It's like, oh, I got to go. I need to go really listen. And it's, for whatever reason, walking does it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love how you marry the physical with the spiritual, with the metaphysical, because I think that so many times in the spiritual space, in the metaphysical space, we tend to be either in the body or out of the body. Yeah. And so So being tapped into both at the same time, I consider that a gift because I know in my own life, I have to work on it. It's interesting because I have a really stressful day, right? And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this podcast can relate. A really stressful day. And I feel it in my typical stress places like my neck or my stomach tightens or what have you. And then I tend to migrate toward meditation, something that takes me out of my body to be able to relax the body. And usually it works. Usually it's an either or. And then when I come back to the body to get all the stuff done, to do the busy work, to get this, and what I think is that so many of us have that separation of an either or. What do you think is the difference? Where do we find that balance? What does that look like?
Well, I think the body is storing information that is unprocessed. And so if you're feeling off or physical or tired or worn out, and you would typically, like you said, go lay down and like let go, that's awesome. But I do find that if you marry, which is your kind of your question, finding out what that information is that's stored in the body before you let it go, that it really will leave. It really will dissolve or integrate if it needs to integrate. But it's when we don't resolve these conception points of our physical pain or exhaustion that they still just come right back. So with the greater understanding of like, oh, my knee, which I loved Louise Hay, she was one of those first people I found as well with the Heal the Body book. And you look the knee up and it would say ego or moving forward or resistance thereof. And so, having that kind of maybe little tool or just simply asking within, like, what is stored in my knee while you're laying there or sitting there or walking on a meditation, you will get answers. And then with those answers, you'll go, oh, I get it. Okay, well, I'm done with that. And let's let go. So yeah, that's the power of mixing the two.
It's like I talk to you and then so much downloading comes because you mentioned something that reminds me of a Carl Jung quote, which says, until we make what's unconscious conscious, it will continue to lead us and we will continue to believe in fate, basically continue to believe that our power is outside of ourselves. And I love what you said and how interesting too, Elasa, that you chose the knee because anybody who's been in my community for a hot minute knows I had a whole bunch of knee crap and, there's been so many layers to overcome. And I had an experience last year where, and of course, when you talk about ego and not letting go and being stubborn, I am definitely familiar with people who like to hold on to control because it's a safety mechanism. A lot of people with past traumas that holding control in the body is comfortable. And until we learn to let that go, obviously it's going to continue to manifest. I'm a huge Louise Hay fan. I have her book right over there on my bookshelf. And I use it for my husband too. And I say, oh, honey, look, you're having this problem. Well, you don't have to shoulder the weight of the world. Let me take some from you and let's get this handled, But the interesting thing was I always thought that the knee thing was really a matter of control and ego. And then by going deeper and removing that layer, I went to the next layer and realized that it was an inflexibility in making a mistake because I had this experience where I was really doing knee work and my daughter came up and she had jumped from a jungle gym several years ago. And before she jumped, I said, she asked me to come over. Mommy, can you come over in case I fall? And I said, well, don't do anything that you don't feel confident in. I said, trust your instincts. So she jumped, but she had a skirt and it caught the back of her dress. I mean, she had a skirt and a pole on the jungle gym caught the back of her dress and she face planted. Fortunately, it was, had a lot of, turf and stuff. So she did manage to break her arm. But the thing was, years later, I'm doing knee work, which I would have never correlated the two. And what came to me was in that moment, I programmed my daughter that it wasn't okay to fall/fail. And so the knee represented for me an inflexibility with either we succeed or we don't. so we don't fail. Failing is not an option. And it's so powerful when we do that kind of work and really allow ourselves to open up to that and release it. Because ever since then, I started running again. My life completely shifted and changed. And I think if people can understand something from this, it's dig deeper, right? Like you're saying, dig deeper, go into it. Don't just go and meditate. Actually pause and ask yourself, get inquisitive. What am I actually holding on to here?
And that's it right there. Dig deeper. And it makes me think of when I first realized I was supposed to start doing ascension work, which, I had no idea what that even meant in my 20s. And I heard that in meditation, which was basically to dig deeper and to illuminate everything, to ascend everything. And I was sitting there and I was just, okay, I'm going to meditate. And my consciousness at that point decided, well, let's start asking some questions. And so I started asking questions. What's ascension? What am I supposed to do with this? What's the soul? And I finally really got this open dialogue going on with my consciousness that I realized, oh my gosh, I've been sitting here for so long meditating, which has been wonderful, but it was nowhere near as profound of the shifts that all of a sudden I started to see when I started to talk to consciousness and then meditate. It was like, let's first get all the questions out of the way and then I can sit and go real deep. And so I started giving permission to myself and reminding everyone I worked with, like, it's okay to communicate when you meditate. And they're like, really? Well, I didn't think I was supposed to talk or anything. Well, yeah, but who's to say, you can do anything you want. Go ahead and start talking and start asking questions. So dig deeper. It's all there. We're literally a computer holding all this information, and everything around us is holding the eternal conversation that you could have with anything, happening in the existence of you and anybody else. And it kind of leads me to, when I say anybody else, permission of other people's psyche, because you can tune in and talk to anybody in consciousness when you're sitting there in that premeditated state of asking questions. You can talk to someone's consciousness, and if they're available, they'll show up. And that's, I found to be even more profound with healing relationships. I've helped many marriages not fall apart because they started to talk to their spouse in meditation and premeditation, and actually found, all the things that they couldn't get from the spouse, in an open dialogue, ego to ego or personality to personality. It saved so many types of relationships, work relationships, parental relationships. And that's where, our mouth, is great for toning and speaking and coding. But when we don't understand this technology of the human vessel, that what you say is, we'd have people talking about typical social conversation or repeating their woe, and then they're just locking themselves deeper into the spell of the word. The word is a spelling. It's a spell. The cursive is a curse. The sentence is a sentence. So when you don't understand in that and you're speaking just unconsciously, you're really just kind of keeping the problem going with talking to the other person. But when you get higher and you start communicating more telepathically or kind of just cognition to cognition, knowing to knowing, visions like will show up to visions, that's where the deep nuggets are, where all the greatest understanding can be had with another person without even any words being said. And they're different type of words. They're codes of light, of truth. And they set people free in their relationships, because then they can really understand, and eons or years of trauma and drama that they've been experiencing all of a sudden just go away, because they start to have this real relationship with an eternal nature, soul, partner or friend or whatever. So yeah, I know that was
that's
all
beautiful. I love how you said what you talked about ascension a couple moments ago. And what's really interesting is you said it in a way that really made it realistic for everyone, regardless of where you are in your journey, where you are in your spiritual journey too. So I wanted to just take a step back really quickly into that space. And ascension is, so some people think this is where this kind of like the starship space sort of got overwhelming for me in my own journey, was the whole idea of ascension, and for so many people, it's if I can't see it, touch it, feel it, it doesn't exist. So talking about ascension in a way that most people can understand it, I feel is a gift. And when you were talking about it, it really helped kind of bring it more foundationally for me. Can you talk a little bit more about ascension and what that is and how you bring that to, call it the layperson's understanding?
It's pretty much this whole conversation. And for the example, like one of the ones I've already said of, that walk, you're grounding, you're embodying all the spiritual practice. And beyond the spiritual practice, the eternal you're embodying that and you're illuminating. So you're illuminating everything because you're not just this form, you're everything. So the ascension is the full illumination, the full embodiment. And, we're in the golden age. We're in the timeline for the ascension that has been spoken about, by every sacred text, prophet, it. So, and it felt to me early on that it would just be this special thing for a few handful of people. And then I started to wake up to realize everybody is everybody and nobody's left behind was a message that I kept getting. And so we're all as a human race ascending, and we're all as a human race realizing our potential of the luminescent, of the lighting up that we are. And so you've only been educated or instructed about this form and this matter. And that was only, a very small, minute piece of what you are. And so now in this ascended time of illumination, of really shining the light on everything, you're seeing that, oh my gosh, I am space. I am light. There are these chakra things. And what do? They illuminate this light being that I am. They illuminate everything. So that for the human, the Homo sapien is changing to the Homo luminous. And we are evolving as a species together. So again, it's not a handful of people, it's everybody. And, you have those who were kind of middle way on the downloads of this, and they were calling it heaven on earth, grounding heaven on earth. And it is that we're grounding heaven on earth. We're grounding the space that we are beyond spiritual. Because I really want to start shifting from spiritual, because this is, again, it's just nuts and bolts of a technology that we are, that doesn't have any religious, it shouldn't have anything religious attached to it. It's like saying, your owner's manual to your car needed to be religious. No, you just needed to know everything about that car.
And I think too, I think that you really hit something there, which is great, because so many people you consider the term spirituality, and it is all encompassing, but because of some of the religious and just, previous cultural teachings of what it represents to an individual, they might reject it or resist it and really delay that entry into the space. And I mean, in my own journey, because I had so many questions about God, what God was for me, I had equated the term God, and it was a he, into this whole big spiritual bundle. And I resisted it my whole life. And I know I'm not alone. There's so many people out there who have, and there's such a gift in it. It's like the digging deeper, right? There's such a gift in digging into the resistance and understanding, okay, why am I resisting this? What beliefs does it hold for me? How is my faith affected? How does it come from my faith in my parents, my first 5 years of my life? There's so much depth to this. And I think if people can really disconnect those previous paradigms of what religious or spirituality means and get curious again, we will see a much greater and perhaps easier, because I like that things can be easy when we really get out of our own way, but like an easier ascension to that next paradigm, that new base level for what our foundation is supposed to be.
And, There's a lot.
Exactly. It's like, where do I have to keep backing myself up because there's so much power in this conversation. And I feel like, okay, well, a half hour is gone. I guess we're just going to keep going.
I'll just say some of the vision that's coming in is, for the timeline of the last 20 years, I felt like it was a handful of people because there was strong beings who were maybe the front runners who were really standing as pillars on the world dock to ground in this frequency and to stabilize it beyond spiritual nature, just to ground frequency. And, in the other timelines where we are at this doorway, we use the pyramids around the planet, as a technology to ground. Then we come into just the awakening of the planet herself and her vibration rising off the charts. So she's grounding in the frequency just fine without any of us. So whether it was our ego to think that we needed to do it as a pillar, or we were just a mere reflection of her doing the same thing. Now where we are, it's like we've hit that 100th monkey, and everyone is already, you're ascending, like whether you like it or not, because we evolve. That's all consciousness had to do, is expand and evolve. So we've hit that evolve mark that everybody's starting to see lights and colors, and everybody's seeing the shadows collapse all around them of things that they thought were real, but realizing it was just very distorted, and it worked for a while, but now we can see right through it. We actually can hear telepathically with the 5G off the chain, like everybody is going to start hearing more and more than they ever wanted to. We can see through each other. We can see through the lies. We can see through someone telling us but like their energy body does something else right in front of us. And that's not just for the person like myself who've been studying and meditating all these years. It's for everybody. So, we're there, and it's just going to happen. And I am seeing though is the front runners, those of us like yourself who've been doing our own work. We will be a bridge and a hand holder, a guide for those who are really going to have big questions come in such profound and enormous amounts of questions that the guides, tell me, my guidance tells me that this is what we've been training for.
Well, first of all, thank you for that honor of being considered a front runner, because my perception is it's so different, because I make a joke, and I always, do the backup beep, beep, because so much of my journey has been through resistance, and the whole knee thing, understanding how that's really just a throwing up a block for growth, for movement, for anything outside of my perceived control. And I do see now, it's funny because once you start to open up to it, you do see, okay, there are people who are definitely where I was, and I'm certainly I heard someone say, if a person says they're woke, they're actually not, because there is no such thing. We're just constantly opening up and growing. And so I definitely consider myself on the pathway now, whereas I was definitely asleep for a while. I was so asleep, and my sister was in the spiritual space. She's been more of the energetic fields than me my whole life. And so I always thought, oh no, that's her thing. I'm definitely a very, cerebral, if I can touch it, feel it. But what's so funny to me is everyone saw it but me. Everyone. And I'm extremely energy sensitive. So when you talk about we're waking up to it, I'm thinking, oh, I've been there my whole life, and it always takes a while for people has taken a while typically in my life for people to come around and see the things that I quote unquote see with my energy. Right. But it's just a path, I feel like, and I feel like I'm such a juvenile on the pathway. And so it's an honor for you to say that I'm, one of the
front runners.
Yeah, one of the front runners, because I think our perception is critical in this. And as long as I don't consider myself that, I'll probably work extra super diligently to continue opening up. And maybe that's why the front runners, like I always hear in like corporate world, where the people who, when they have a meeting and they're talking about there's certain people on the team who aren't really pulling their weight. So interesting that the ones who actually are doing the hard work think they're the ones being spoken of. And the ones who actually are being spoken of don't even realize that it pertains to them. So I think that when you talk about the front runners, that's probably symbolic of those who are going first, where it's such an uncomfortable, unfamiliar journey, and you feel like you're messing it all up, when in reality, you're actually moving. You're actually the one moving forward.
You're going into it, right? We're literally going into the knots and untangling them. And the front runner to me is just anybody who has a tool and it's been working with it, like, then you're good. And it doesn't stop. I'm still working for self, for the team. Like, it doesn't end. I don't think it ever will at a level, because again, we're always expanding. So
you talked about, you have an Akashic app, Akashic Pro app, which it actually is a great tool when we're talking about tools. And I've used this app several times, and every time I just still am floored by how accurate it is. The other day I was feeling stress in my neck, and I opened up the app, and then it started telling me all the things that I already intuitively knew, but then it just confirmed them. And I thought, wow, this is just so amazing. So your app really does go through the ascension journey to go into really start helping us remove. It's a tool to help us remove the things that are blocking us. Can you talk us through that app really quickly and just talk about it as a resource for anyone on any point in this journey?
Absolutely. And that's where I would point anybody to find any of the work, is that tool. The Akashic Soul Pro app was guided by Source. It's, been a 4-year project, and it got granted automatic button status last year, which is what you're talking about. You push the button and it gives you who, what, when, where, why, looking through 24 lenses of charts. And those charts are usually pretty accurate to what you're already intuiting, which is a confirmation. So it's a confidence building tool to trust your intuition. It's an intuitive training tool, but it's also going to go ahead and find out who, what, when, where, why is connected to your topic or intention or question. And that way you can go do the digging and tune in and ask some more questions of, well, what do I need to know about that? And once you find out, that understanding comes over you, and you then can let it go. You can let it untangle. You can let the knee problem go. Like you said, that sometimes it's an onion and you're peeling things back. It's got different layers to it, which is why, having the automatic button is wonderful, because you can push 5 different records. We call them. Akash means ether. All information is held in ether. And so you're picking up the information held in space and ether, the 5th dimension. And you're finding in the 4th dimension where you literally have anchors out in space connected to your body and the projection out of you. And so you become awake to the ability to create again, and to super consciously create, because you're always creating. Like I said, everything you think, say, and do is creating. So when you become super conscious of how the creation happens through your thoughts and your actions and your feelings, you really do become an activator to a higher way of living. You become wide awake to what's going on in your creations. So it's a cleansing purification tool. It rises your frequency to 500 on the Hawkins scale, the consciousness scale, just by downloading it to your phone, which creates love frequency. So just by having it on the phone, you're going to be vibrating love, which will help you have less disagreements and more understanding around you. It makes the phone a benefit for you and not a hindrance. It does not hurt you. It neutralizes that, along with some other technologies I've been guided to do with as far as that type of work. But this app, in addition, when you use it, you can rise your frequency to 900 on the Hawkins scale, which is enlightenment, by doing more pushing of the button. So it's pretty powerful, and I highly suggest it.
So in a sense, you've created the easy button for us.
Yes. That was the guidance. I literally was supposed to a few months ago actually go and order a bunch of easy buttons, but I think you just put it better. That's the easy button.
Yeah, you've already, and it's funny because I know if I say this, you'll say, well, I was basically the vessel, right? It's channeled through, but you created the easy button in this particular space for us. And what is really cool about it is it's not just, okay, it's stress relief or it's, oh, I'm going to connect with a higher source. It really is, it is everything from the grounded physical body up.
Yeah.
And I love that it takes the things that are out here in space in our energy field that are causing this dis-ease or injury or whatever it is, and really helps us connect intuitively with it so that we can, like you said, it gets up to 900, really help us ascend and become lighter in our physical body, which I can't help but imagine it would really just aid in the healing process.
Because you're concentrating your essence. Each time you clear the record, you pull back your plasma, your essence from the fourth dimension, the biophotons. They literally come back, and it's proven on Michael Winter's site on the Heart Math Institute that your particles will come back to you once you understand. And so when you understand why the knee's been bothering you, of the who, what, when, where, why, and you then call back your essence just through a simple calling it back, the app now does it for you. I had to update that, but you are here to empower, so it's important you learn to use your commands well. But yeah, you're becoming lighter, because think about it, it's almost like chewing gum. If a piece of gum is spread out in Arkansas and Egypt and New Hampshire, and to this person, to that person, you are heavy, you are dense, you are weighed down. But when you start concentrating your essence back, you literally start to glow again, and that's your new currency. You have enough current to create instantly. So you know how much work you've done when you start really instantly creating. And I'll say start instantly creating again, because I don't want to go too much into it, but there was a pause on manifestation for a bit these past few years for the collective because we were changing over systems.
Oh, great. Well, that explains it.
The whole law of attraction, worked for a while, and then it paused because there was a layer of, again, personal responsibility and our sovereignty and understanding the Akash, basically understanding why, what was underneath what you were calling in. You have to clear the foundation before you begin to manifest. Otherwise it crumbles. If the foundation's not there.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And even just likening it to your own inner work, because I'm a huge proponent of freedom is within, and it really is all about the inner work. And once we clear the junk, really, that we're carrying around with us, that the stories and beliefs that say, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to make it, I came from poor, whatever the story is, when we clear that out, then it really does clear a channel for us receiving and being open to anything that we choose.
Yes.
I love it when you get all lit up too. It's like, I love the connection. I can feel it. I could talk to you all day. And I definitely can see that this is a conversation that at least is going to have a part 2. And I thank you so much for being open to us today. As we start to wrap up here, is there anything that you really want our listeners to know or to understand about the process? Maybe something that they can do or understand about where we are and where we're headed and what you are personally also bringing to the table?
Mainly just, if you're interested in waking up with more clarity on the path daily, having that tool, the Akashic Soul Pro app, highly suggest it. I also suggest if you're local to Crystal Beach, Florida, Tampa Bay area, and you want to really deep dive into a program, we've got a program possibly that fits what you're looking for those deep divers at theunitymarker.com. And yeah, I do a lot of distance work. I'm here to empower. Anything that I am doing is really to help with sovereignty for the collective. And I just, I'm honored to be here.
Beautiful. And I can personally attest to the power of the programs and the Akashic Soul Pro app. Really just totally sourced from the highest possible energy, because it does move. It moves people, it moves energy, and just I've seen so many people coming in who come in, maybe they're carrying a bag of different energy or something, and then they leave really in a completely different place, energetically, emotionally, physically, all of it. So I'm sure that our listeners are going to really gain some serious value, even just from the app. And I also would welcome anyone to check out, the programs and everything that you have going on there. So if there's nothing else they do, then definitely check out the Akashic Soul Pro app. Where can they find you on social?
They can find me at Patreon, Elasa's Activation, Ascension Activations. You can find me on Facebook, Elasa. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And let's just keep ascending and rising together, sister.
Thank you.
If you like what you're hearing on the Show Up Show, be sure to subscribe. And if you really, really, really like it, please leave a 5-star review. If you'd like to connect with the Show Up Show on social media, you can find us on Facebook at the Show Up Show Podcast or on Twitter at the Show Up Show. Let's be sure to connect over on the other side. Thanks for listening.